atmosphere must be very speculative. Preparations would have been made, but final celebrations must have been kept on hold. Arguments and counter-arguments must be going on. This time not by politicians, but by their supporters and admirers. Today, that is 4th of June, when we are here with you, all that we just talked about must be happening all over India. And why not so? After all, the nation is going to get a new government. All the excitement is worth it. Hello viewers, welcome back to the Drishti IAS English. As the spotlight shifts from voting to results, anticipation hangs heavy in the air. Who will seize the reins of power and who will face defeat? These pivotal decisions will be unveiled by the Election Commission today, that is on 4th of June. But amidst this anticipation lies a deeper inquiry. How is a government formed? While the party with a majority typically ascends to power, what unfolds when no single entity claims enough seats? And how does the selection of the Prime Minister differ from the local representative elections? Let's delve into the intricate nuances of the electoral process, starting with the fascinating choreography of vote counting. Following the elections, electronic voting machines, that is EVMs, and voter verified paper audit trail, that is VVPAT machines, are swiftly secured and dispatched to counting centers in each constituency. On counting day, amid stringent security measures, the results from each machine are meticulously tabulated. VVPAT slips from select polling booths are cross-checked with EVM results to ensure accuracy. Despite occasional doubts, the Election Commission's robust security protocols dismiss concerns over EVM credibility. With results secured, attention turns to the complex process of government formation. The process of government formation in India after the Lok Sabha elections begins with the announcement of election results by the Election Commission of India, detailing the number of seats won by each party. This marks the end of the current government's tenure, leading to the submission of the resignation of the Council of Ministers by the outgoing Prime Minister to the President. Taking today's example, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will submit his resignation to President Draupadi Murmu. You might have a question that what if Narendra Modi-led government again wins the election? Will Mr. Modi still have to resign? So, the answer is yes, he will resign. Although he can form a new government after an invitation from the President invites the leader of the party or coalition with the most seats to form the government. If no single party has a clear majority, the President may invite the leader of the largest party to attempt forming a coalition government. Although this is purely the President's discretion to decide whom to invite. But a convention has evolved over the years that single largest party or coalition is invited. This has happened many times in Indian political history. For the first time, it happened in 1977 when Janata Party, which was a coalition of many parties, was invited to form a government. Morarji Desai was sworn in as the Prime Minister of the coalition. Interestingly, when this role was played by the acting President B.D. Jatti, who had taken over the demise of President Fakhruddin Ali Ahmed. Now, getting back to our discussion, the newly elected MPs of the largest party or coalition meet to elect their parliamentary party leader, usually the prime ministerial candidate. This leader then submits a formal claim to the President to form the government, presenting letters of support from other parties or independent MPs to demonstrate majority support. If the leader cannot secure a majority, the President may invite the leader of the second largest party or coalition. For the first time, such scenario emerged in Indian politics in 1996. Actually, after the 1996 general elections, BJP emerged as the single largest party. Considering that The then President Shankar Dayal Sharma invited BJP to form the government. However, after 13 days in office, Atal Bihari Vajpayee-led government could not prove majority. After that, President Shankar Dayal Sharma invited H.D. Devegowda to form the government, and Shri Vajpayee became the leader of opposition. What a turn of fate! So, the President formally appoints the leader of the largest party or coalition as the Prime Minister, who then takes the oath of office along with selected members of the Council of Ministers. This oath-taking ceremony, often held at Rashtrapati Bhavan, signifies the official start of the new government. The Prime Minister finalizes the composition of the Council of Ministers, including Cabinet Ministers, Ministers of State, and Deputy Ministers, and submits the list to the President for approval. The President then issues a notification summoning the newly elected Lok Sabha for the first session, marking the beginning of the legislative process for the new government. However, there is a technicality in it. A newly elected MP cannot perform the legislative function without taking the oath, and oath must be administered by the presiding officer. Therefore, President makes a temporary arrangement for this. The President appoints the senior-most member of the Lok Sabha as the pro tem speaker to preside over the first meeting, including overseeing the oath-taking ceremony for the newly elected MPs and conducting the election of the permanent speaker. The pro tem speaker administers the oath of office to all newly elected MPs, enabling them to officially take their seats and participate in parliamentary proceedings. The members of the Lok Sabha then elect the speaker from among themselves, who assume office and begins presiding over the sessions, ensuring orderly conduct and adherence to parliamentary rules. After this, the Prime Minister moves a motion of confidence in the Lok Sabha to prove the government's majority support. If the motion of the confidence is not passed, the President may dissolve the Lok Sabha and call for fresh elections, or invite another leader to try forming the government. Yes, something similar to what happened in 1996 with Vajpayee government. However, a successful vote on the motion of confidence establishes the government's legitimacy to govern. The Speaker then constitutes various parliamentary committees which play a vital role in scrutinizing bills, budgets, and policies in detail. The President addresses a joint sitting of both houses of Parliament, outlining the government's policies, priorities, and legislative agenda for the coming year, marking the formal start of the new government's legislative work. The Lok Sabha then debates the motion of thanks on the President's address, allowing MPs to discuss and critique the government's proposed policies and agenda. This debate is actually followed by a vote, which further solidifies the government's majority in the House. This comprehensive process ensures a systematic and constitutional formation of the government in India, reflecting democratic principles and the rule of law. So, this was all in this episode. Let's wait for the election results and formation of the new government. Till then, Jai Hind.